And the number of positive COVID-19 cases in India has surpassed the 24 million mark. 343,000 new cases were reported over a 24-hour period, while 4,000 people have died. Journalist Pavni Mittal joins me now to discuss exactly how the country has been affected thus far and what government's latest interventions are to try and help curb the spread of the virus. Thank you, Pavni. It's obviously shocking when we hear these numbers, but of course you're on the ground. So tell us if things are improving at all, because we've been covering this story and it just seems more and more disastrous every day.
You know, the latest numbers are slightly lower than what we've seen over the last 1 week. But still, I mean, just objectively, they're very, very high. At the same time, it's important to note that experts have been saying that both the case count as well as the death tally are underreported. What we've seen as a broad trend is that cities like Mumbai and Delhi, which were the original hotspots, especially Mumbai, we've seen a decline in cases here and in Mumbai, but we've seen a rise of cases in different parts of the country. So rural India has seen a huge surge, and even states that held elections in April, you may remember a month ago, that was the big talking point. The Prime Minister was hosting these massive rallies in eastern states, and several other states had gone for elections, and all political parties, by the way, had held rallies. And now we're seeing the impact of that. So on ground, what we're seeing is that most states have announced their own version of a lockdown. Trying to control the numbers, but also ramping up medical supplies, because the numbers is one thing, but they don't begin to even capture the tragedy. Like in Delhi, the situation is much better now, but at its peak, people were dying just waiting outside hospitals, and Delhi has probably the best medical
Is anyone being held accountable, Pavni? Is anyone being held accountable? Because you mentioned quite clearly there that the campaigns must have been contributors as super spreader events. Is the media in India holding government accountable for their actions?
So there's a lot of reporting, of course, on what's going on. But at the same time, the Indian media is a very fractured media. You have a huge print. I think India is the largest media sort of country in the world with the largest print readership, TV viewership. So it's very hard to really pinpoint if the media is doing anything. But I would say that you're seeing a lot of ground reports coming from rural India, the struggles of rural India, which are really important. At the same time, we're seeing a lot of criticism of the ruling party and its handling of the crisis, both in terms of controlling the numbers, the medical facilities, and also the vaccinations now. That's another department where the government has come under a lot of fire. Like India is the largest producer of vaccines in the world, but barely 3% of the population has been fully vaccinated.
So what are you seeing? Is there a light at the end of this tunnel? Can people in India see that this might come to an end, or that things are being handled under control again?
So I think what you're seeing is lockdowns, and you're seeing the effect of lockdowns in places like Delhi and Mumbai. Now, a lot of the states that have seen surges have announced recent lockdowns, but the numbers are so high, it is going to take time for the numbers to come down. But again, as I was saying, the tragedy is not just the caseload, it's the impact, the overwhelmed hospitals. And the biggest concern now is that we may not have enough vaccines to really control the pandemic, because that is what you're seeing around the world in places like the US, which was struggling for a year. Now you're seeing them open up, and CDC saying if you've been fully vaccinated, you can remove your masks. We're not seeing that happen in India anytime soon. So that is a big cause for concern.